in his rented room, likewise writing. He had furnished his 2 rooms with a semblance of luxury, no doubt at the expense of certain basic items. He had taken particular pains with the armchairs, which were soft and well padded, and with the drapes and rugs. He explained that with this kind of an interior he could maintain the dignity of tedium. In rooms decorated in the modern style, tedium becomes a discomfort, a physical distress. Nothing had ever obliged him to do anything. He'd spent his childhood alone. He never joined any group. He never pursued a course of study. He never belonged to a crowd. The circumstances of his life were marked by that strange but rather common phenomenon, perhaps, in fact, it's true for all lives, of being tailored to the image and likeness of his instincts, which tended towards inertia and withdrawal. He never had to face the demands of society or of the state. He even evaded the demands of his own instincts. Nothing ever prompted him to have friends or lovers. I was the only one who was in some way his intimate. But even if I always felt that I was relating to an assumed personality and that he didn't really consider me his friend, I realized from the beginning that he needed someone to whom he could leave the book that he left. This troubled me at first, but I'm glad to say that I was able to see the matter from a psychologist's point of view, and I remained just as much his friend, devoted to the end for which he'd drawn me to himself, the publication of this book. Even in this respect, circumstances were strangely favorable to him, for they brought him somebody of my character who could be of use to him. 1. I was born in a time when the majority of young people had lost faith in God for the same reason their elders had had it, without knowing why. And since the human spirit naturally tends to make judgments based on feeling instead of reason, most of these young people chose humanity to replace God. I, however, am the sort of person who is always on the fringe of what he belongs to, seeing not only the multitude he's a part of, but also the wide-open spaces around it. That's why I didn't give up God as completely as they did, and I never accepted humanity. I reasoned that God, while improbable, might exist, in which case he should be worshipped, whereas humanity, being a mere biological idea and signifying nothing more than the animal species we belong to, was no more deserving of worship than any other animal species. The cult of humanity, with its rights of freedom and equality, always struck me as a revival of those ancient cults in which gods were like animals or had animal heads. And so, not knowing how to believe in God, and unable to believe in an aggregate of animals, I, along with other people on the fringe, kept a distance from things, a distance commonly called decadence. Decadence is the total loss of unconsciousness, which is the very basis of life. Could it think, the heart would stop beating. For those few like me who live without knowing how to have life, what's left but renunciation as our way, and contemplation as our destiny? Not knowing nor able to know what religious life is, since faith isn't acquired through reason, and unable to have faith in or even react to the abstract notion of man, we're left with the aesthetic contemplation of life as our reason for having a soul. Impassive to the solemnity of any and all worlds, indifferent to the divine, and disdainers of what is human, we uselessly surrender ourselves to pointless sensation, cultivated in a refined Epicureanism, as befits our cerebral nerves. Retaining from science only its fundamental precept, that everything is subject to fatal laws, which we cannot freely react to since the laws themselves determine all reactions, and seeing how this precept concurs with the more ancient one of the divine fatality of things, we abdicate from every effort, like the weak-bodied from athletic endeavors, and we hunch over the book of sensations like scrupulous scholars of feeling. Taking nothing seriously, and recognizing our sensations as the only reality we have for certain, we take refuge there, exploring them like large unknown countries. And if we apply ourselves diligently not only to aesthetic contemplation, but also to the expression of its method,